Orlando, welcome to the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans.
Another Magic podcast?
Oh, man.
Now, wait. I know what you're thinking, but I promise you, it's going to be a little different. Check this out. All right, guys, we finally made it. We finally get all of us in the same room. Ultimate goal is really just to have a real conversation about Magic basketball. And it's crazy to think, because if we really look around the table, we're having a table discussion, but we have a lot of different platforms going on. Me, myself, I have the Instagram, Orlando Magic HQ, that I'm super proud of, have a lot of passion for, but we also have some interesting things.
Yeah, like for me, I have the Zone BB. I'm sure some of you guys listening to this podcast are going to be familiar. I created that just to cover the Orlando Magic from a fan's perspective, and that's been going really well.
And for me, it was just, again, something that I started for fun with the Pure Magic 407 Twitter account, now rebranded it as the OZone. Again, just something that grew on its own, and I do for fun, but again, it brought us all together. And then we have Mark here as well, who's our Magic fan perspective.
Yes, I'm the odd one of the group. I don't have a social media platform, so for me it's a little different, but I am a diehard Magic fan. I still keep up with all the news and the numbers along with it.
I think what makes that cool, I'm sure, just like all of you, we've been following Magic for a little while, but if you really think about it, almost 10 years ago, the way that you were able to get Magic information, you were very limited on your sources. You had to either wait for, news to come out on Orlando Sentinel. You had to watch ESPN to see the little rolling bar at the bottom. I used to use Real GM and Hoops Hype all the time. And, everything has grown so much that now you're able to get information quick on Twitter. You can get it quick on Instagram if you're following my page.
Sometimes it feels like you get news faster than the players.
That's right. Oh, that's true. That's right. That's right. And I think that's what makes this whole entire thing pretty fun to do, because we're able to come together and really have a conversation, and I think that's what's going to be the biggest thing that the listeners are really going to enjoy.
And I think like you mentioned, that's what I think brought us together too. We all got to know each other through social media. I kind of started reaching out to you guys individually recently about this plan, this vision that I had about creating this podcast. And it's funny how we had a quick little meeting in downtown Orlando recently. And I think we all at the same time just realized this is an incredible idea. We all want to do this. How do we make it happen? And here we are, guys. It's finally here.
Yeah, I think some of the things you can expect from the OZone podcast is realistic perspective. Yes, we are fans, but we're not oblivious to what's going on around the league and how the Magic stack up to those expectations. So I think you'll find fun conversation, honest conversation, and if it's happening, it'll be talked about with us.
Now that's all nice. That's all fine and dandy, but let's talk Magic basketball.
Let's do it, man. Right? That's what we're here for.
Season already started. I've kind of felt like this off season was a really long off season, and now we've already played 2 games. What stood out to you guys?
For me, I think it's just been the team has looked good at times and great at times, really. Like against the Cavs, they had the second quarter where the defense just really locked in. They looked like the Magic that we expected to see from day one. But then you have this lapses where the team just looks out of sort. They don't look like themselves. And I think that creates some doubt into what we think the Magic will look like this year. But so far, I'm excited. I think the team looks good. The players are there. We know the talent that we have, the depth. What do you think?
But you don't think that it's just like beginning jitters? It's just a couple games. I know we had the really strong showing, and then yesterday was a little disappointing, but it's still just 2 games.
1-1. Like Alvaro said, the first game had a lot of jitters in it. Still the beginning, a lot of positives, a lot of negatives to get out of that game. Obviously, we took our first loss of the season last night to the Atlanta Hawks, so. To me, it's just, bouncing back. We have our next home game coming up.
Some things to be excited about. I was at the home opener for the Magic, and it was loud in there. It was loud. It felt like people were showing up. They were engaged. They wanted to see the team win. If you've been to Magic games before this season, a lot of times it felt like people were more interested on, what was on their phone than what was on the court. And I think that's changing. So I think the cultural change is happening in Orlando. So if you want to hop on the bandwagon, now's the time.
Yeah, what's crazy to me is that you mentioned that it was loud at the Amway. Let me tell you, it was loud in my house. Like yesterday was so exciting just because the minute that Markel hit his first three, man, I can only imagine how it was on the bench. Like I saw the highlight and everyone on the bench was exciting. You know, coaches were clapping and I was hyped. I almost ran, almost a mile around my house just because I was that excited. It took a little bit, right? He was 0 for 3 the very first game and then he missed the first two
or three.
The first two, I think it was first 2 3-pointers, and then he finally hit that last one. The shot looked still looked a little hitchy, but the fact that he had enough confidence to still go out there and shoot the basketball, doesn't matter if he knows that he missed a few before. The fact that he was still able to stand there and still take those shots because they're leaving him open. Like no one is guarding him. They're asking for him to shoot the ball.
Go out there and shoot it.
That's right.
And I think what's exciting about it is if you're watching the games, even live, you can see he's not hesitating. He's open. He knows it. He's just shooting it. Where I think if you watch the games last year when he played for Philly, you could tell he was hesitating. He was forcing shots sometimes. He just thought about it twice. He's not doing that anymore, guys. It's just...
And I think the biggest confidence is the Coach Clifford, giving him that confidence. He's inserting him 5-6 minutes into the first quarter. Go inside, do your thing. No limitations, like Anthony said. He's open on the 3-point shot. Go ahead, take it right away.
One of the things I've noticed from game 1 to game 2 is our consistency on defense. I think game 1 against the Cavs, we were doing good. There were times where we led 20, 25 points, and then we kind of, went on cruise control, and then the Cavs got to come back into the game, and they made it a much closer finish than we would have liked. I think that's something that we saw consistently last year, which is where the Magic had a hard time closing games out, and teams, fought back and beat us late in games. So I think that's going to be something to look forward at, just to make sure that the Magic are picking up that slack on defense. Against the Hawks last night, honestly, I feel like we lost, but we should have lost by more. We didn't play well. I think our ball movement wasn't that great, and Trae Young just had a fantastic game. He played out of his mind last night.
I mean, just from the get, he scored. I want to say it was 10 points in the first 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where we didn't play well. And there's no secret about that. Aaron Gordon had a tough game. Evan Fournier had a tough game. But we only lost by a few points.
And
it's still early on in the season.
And that's encouraging. That's the thing. Like, we shot in the 30% range last night. Our defense was not all there. And we managed to lose the game by 4 points. I mean, that, if you want to think anything positive besides faults, hitting a 3-pointer last night, it's the fact that we only lost the game by 4 points against a solid Hawks team. They're no longer the lottery bound team. They have potential. So I think that for me was encouraging. Yeah, we lost. It sucked. I went to bed upset. But it was a 4-point game. And again, he took that miracle shot by Trae Young to beat us with faults all over him. So, yeah.
And just to think about it, like, us losing last night, there's no need to hit the panic button. It's not red alert. If anything, this is kind of just giving ammunition to the media outlets of their predictions of us missing the playoffs. That's not the case. Like it's still a very good team that we lost a tough game away, but at the same time we're all right. It's not every day that we're gonna have the Aaron Gordons, the Evan Fourniers that they're just not offensively not there. But give us time, and we're gonna see that through. Biggest thing for me though is just the amount of disrespect there's been out in the social media. Just a couple of days ago, Tony Allen was on a podcast, and he had some real, to me, what I found was disrespectful remarks. He had mentioned that he had brought up the podcast. What was his name? Chris Vernon.
Chris Vernon.
Chris Vernon had asked Tony Allen, how he feels like he would be matched up against an Evan Fournier and a Terrence Ross.
Yeah, and to hear him say that he would not, he would go to bed late that night, he would go partying, he would not give any thought to that matchup.
He said something like, make a reservation for 7.
Make a reservation for 7.
Yeah. I mean, there's no need for that. I mean, I get it. He was an all NBA defensive player. We understand all that. But he kind of took it personal.
I'm not shocked at all. We're talking about Tony Allen, guys. Very cocky guy, very prideful, but he does have the resume. He takes on the best scorers of each team, and for him, to say that to talking about our guards, Terrence Ross, Evan Fournier. I'm not shocked at all. Not shocked.
I think his comments weren't well received by Magic Twitter for sure. But I think it's really irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he got to lock up Terrence Ross and Fournier in their earlier years. Terrence Ross and Evan Fournier are much better scorers now than they were then. And, it's an argument that we can have. It's like the MJ LeBron argument. It doesn't matter because they'll never play against each other again. And I think if anything, I think the guys are going to use that as motivation. They're going to use that conversation. They're going to use guys sleeping on them, on national media as motivation to outperform their expectations.
I mean, you're right. It is irrelevant. But to me, ever since the post-Dwight Howard era, right, all I ever wanted was just for the Magic to be respected again, right?
Right.
And it's the fact that we're now getting to the point that and you got to respect the Magic. We made it to the playoffs last season when everyone counted us out. We did win a game away, right? We didn't get past the first round, but we did lose to the NBA champions.
Yeah,
That's
right.
So it's kind of like I've always wanted that if teams come to Orlando, they're not going to go out and party. They're not going to have that reservation of 7 people on the table. They need to make sure that they go home, get good rest, because they know that they have some big, tall, long guys that they're going to have to go against and battle out with. And I feel like we're now getting to that point. So that's where I feel the comments were disrespectful, because he only played against the Magic, most recently in the post-White era, where we weren't anything to you could reserve the 7 people table, but now you got to respect.
That's what he's talking about. I think he's talking about the Magic of old. Now the new Magic, the Coach Clifford led Magic. That again, you can't take easy. I mean, look at again back to last night against the Hawks. Yeah, we lost that game. Yeah, again, 4-point game. We're shooting horrible the ball. Defense wasn't there. We barely lost that game. Take it to last year. We lost games against the Warriors and things like that, but we were up, 19, 20 points in those games.
Yes.
So I think, I don't think you can no longer take the Magic for granted and say, hey, we play the Magic tomorrow. Let's go out, party it up. You can do that, but it won't be a fun game for you the next time.
But I have a question for you guys. So we did shoot terribly last night, but we got to the free throw line a lot, more so than we have, in any game, I want to say in the last handful of seasons. So how do you think that that's going to impact us moving forward? With our length, I think, and athleticism, it's easier to get in the paint and force those fouls. Obviously, when you hit like 25 free throws, it's going to keep you in those games where you're not scoring well.
I believe last year that was one thing we lacked, was getting to the free throw line. Like I said, to bounce back on Markelle Fultz, he is a point guard in our team that we haven't seen in a very long time. I would maybe say prime Jameer Nelson. This is a guy who's coming in. He has a lot of length, has a lot of strength to him. Talking about a 6'4", 6'5" frame, penetrating very fast, very explosive. We're gonna get to the free throw line. He's gotten to the free throw line, I think, a decent amount of times.
He's been hitting those free throw shots.
Yes, he's been hitting them.
He has.
I don't see no hesitation.
He likes to get people involved in the paint. So a lot of times, at least what I've seen, from the preseason and now, he'll drive into the paint, and in the paint, while taking contact, he'll pass out to someone trailing him or something like that. And it makes it fun. It gets the rest of his teammates, engaged and involved. And when you have guys who can run the floor at a high pace like Aaron Gordon and Terrence Ross, when Fultz is leading the pack and they're trailing him and defense is collapsing on Fultz and he kicks out, that's the perfect scenario to get T. Ross involved.
And I think last season, if there was one thing that I can also contribute on what I think was missing, is having that one elite person that can drive the ball to the basket. I mean, you really think about, you can put Evan Fournier in that category, but this guy's taking it down the middle and slamming it down. You may not respect his shot, but you have to respect his penetration.
Right.
So that immediately is going to allow for the floor to open up for the Evan Fourniers, Aaron Gordons, and Terrence Rosses.
That's right. I mean, and Fultz not afraid. He'll go, he'll dribble it up, he'll cross you up, and he'll take it to the basket. Like you mentioned, Justin, he will maybe not finish that shot, but he'll give you a behind the back pass. He'll give you a random pass, nobody's expecting, and that will either lead to a foul or an easy basket. What the teammates have to do, the Magic teammates have to do, is be ready for those passes. I think we've seen a lot of those passes, either lead to turnovers or mishandle the ball. They got to be ready. They now know that he's going to be giving the ball in the right situation.
It's a different taste, for sure, I can say.
I've noticed early, too, that I love DJ. I think DJ did a phenomenal job for us last year, and I think you can't you can't devalue him as a player, but I think his role on the team is gonna diminish a little bit when Fultz is handling the ball. It seems like everything flows consistently. He can shoot in transition, he can pass in transition, he could do all of those things. Where a lot of times DJ would run into the paint, kind of circle back around, give people time to kind of set themselves, and then would kick out for a pass, and that works. But in certain situations when you're dealing against teams that, have really good defense, they lock those guys down. And even if you come in and run back out, you're not going to find an open player. So I think Markelle benefits the rest of the guys on the floor, while he's running down the court, making those passes, or taking that shot in transition, that step back he likes to do in the paint. There's just more of a versatility to Markelle's game than there is to DJ's.
And I really wish that people were able to see, how we see the Magic, how we see how impactful Markelle Fultz is impacting this team more so than, missing that presence last season. So, for example, on the first game of the NBA season, on the TNT, you had Kenny the Jet Smith. That his predictions was that the Magic weren't not going to make the playoffs.
Charles Barkley too.
Charles Barkley also. He had the Miami Heat making it in the 4, 5, 6 range, and the Magic just completely missing out, which I find confusing because it's kind of like, if you really think about it, this is the first time that we've had a legitimate coach come back for a second season. So just off of continuity by itself, this team is improving. Now you're adding a legitimate point guard that now, as Magic fans, we can honestly say that can really carry this team. Yeah, he may not have the shooting from behind the 3-point line, but he is so much more than just his hitch and his shot. He can take the ball to the basket. He can really run the team. His eyes for passing is insane. Yesterday, he had a crazy pass to Jonathan Isaac that I completely missed. I don't know how Jonathan Isaac saw it, but it was an amazing passing, efficient pass down the lane, and we were able to get an easy bucket.
Yeah, to follow up on your point, I think what's this analyst, again, thinking the Magic will miss the playoffs, the one that hurt me the most, at least, Dennis Scott, saying that the Magic will not make the playoffs this year. What do you guys think about that?
I think Dennis Scott actually ended up reversing on that. He was on a season preview for the Magic, and he said he was going to take it back. He was on there with Stan Van Gundy.
Oh, he had to.
There was some pressure on him, but we want you to keep that same energy. If you feel like the Magic aren't going to make the playoffs when the season starts, keep that same energy. They'll benefit from that. The doubters and all of those things, that is what's going to fuel them. If it was easy, if everybody said, the Magic are definitely a shoo-in for the playoffs, it kills that motivation. Yeah. And I think these guys are going to definitely benefit from that.
Definitely the last season, I think all the odds were against us. We had a lot of that last season with all these analysts. They don't know too much about the Magic. We're a very young team, on the rise. A lot of players that nobody really knows about. And, Kenny Smith, he specifically said the Magic are in trouble and that, Miami's going to take our spot pretty much in the playoffs. What do you guys think about that,
I mean, I'm not a fan of Miami, and I'm not just being biased. Just not a fan of the team. I'm not a fan of Jimmy Butler as a player. He's a hard worker, but I just think that every place that he goes to, it hurts the chemistry of that specific team. As much as I love the Magic Heat rivalry, for you to sit there and say that Miami Heat are in and we're not going to make it at all, I just find confusing. The biggest thing that could have happened for any team in the East is two things: LeBron leaving and Kawhi leaving.
That's right.
The East is completely open.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
The ceiling, I personally feel the ceiling for the Magic is in the third seed. But, I mean, for
just to count us out after a playoff appearance, no?
It doesn't make any sense. And for me, I just don't see, I don't know about you guys, but I don't see another 8 teams in the East that I can say the Magic cannot beat or have a better record this season than. It just doesn't make any sense.
But in order for us to have that type of respect from outside man, and granted, whatever they say doesn't matter.
True.
It's a fact of getting respect back for the city of Orlando, the Orlando Magic. Yes. But in order for us to do that, we can't lose to a team like the Atlanta Hawks. It just can't.
So I think one of the biggest emphasis points that Clifford should be, drilling into these guys' heads is you have to win the games that you're supposed to win.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
That's right.
If you, you may get a big win against LA, Clippers, Lakers, whatever it is, but those games against the Cavs, Atlanta, Memphis, those are games that you have to win. And for you to be taken seriously by the national media, you have to take advantage of when those teams are on your schedule.
And I'm just really hoping those days are behind. Last season was painful to see this team come out of the All-Star break. And we're all thinking they're going to win, 10, 15 games here out of the next 20 they had. And they will lose to this mediocre teams at the time. But yeah, we'll go ahead and beat the Warriors and beat the Raptors. So I think those days are behind for this team. Unfortunately, last night's showing does not show that. But it's too early in the season to get too hung over that.
But the mindset has to be, okay, so we lost against the Hawks, right? It happened. But you have the Bucks coming up, you have the Nuggets coming up, right? So it has to be one of those things, well, okay, we lost to the Hawks.
Let's make it up.
But let's make it up.
Yeah.
When we play against the Bucks has to be no question. Has to be where we got to make sure that we're prepared, everyone's focused, and it has to be one of those things that we go into the game, we're efficient, we got to play, and we have to...
I'll make it sooner than that. I'll say Monday's game. Tomorrow's game to me, you just got to set the tone. We dropped the ball. We had a horrible game against the Hawks. You got to win tomorrow in Toronto and set that tone. Hey, you're the champion. You are predicted to make the playoffs. We'll beat you. You beat us last year in the playoffs. The perfect time to bounce back from that. And of course, the Knicks on Wednesday. You definitely got to win that game at home. So that's how you start building momentum. Bad loss, let's bounce back.
Yes, definitely this week is going to be, I say, our first challenge of the season. We got 4 upcoming games, 3 of them which are playoff teams that represented the West and the East last year. And then we got a New York game on Wednesday as well, which as Magic fans we all expect to hopefully win if things goes well. But just to bounce back to that, tomorrow we do got Toronto. What do you guys think about going into Toronto?
I think, again, like I said a few minutes ago, not a must win. It's early in the season, but to me it is. We got to bounce back. We got to show that we can be better than what we've shown against the Cavs and the Hawks. And what better way to do it than by beating the team that we lost in the playoffs last year?
And Toronto's not looking bad at all this season so far.
They're good.
They lost Kawhi, and they're still pretty looking good. So I think we have our work cut out for us tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Toronto is a little bit of a blueprint of what we should look to be. They're getting, big minutes from their young guys. They're getting, big points from their young guys. Van Vliet, Siakam, I think they're looking really good. And, you got the veteran presence of Kyle Lowry, who, kind of torched us.
He's not a favorite down here in Orlando.
Not a fan of it. Not a fan of it.
I'm really looking forward to the matchup with Siakam and Jonathan Isaac. I feel like Jonathan Isaac is the type of player that he needs to have that matchup to really contribute and motivate him the way that we know that he can be.
Needs to be taken personal.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, as you know, that we made some roster changes that open up a free and available roster spot that we have to fill before, I want to say, the deadline's in a week or so.
It's about a week and a half, yeah.
Yeah, so, based on the free agents that are out there, is there anyone in your mind that you feel will be a good fit with this team?
To me, I'm pretty sure this guy is, he's around social media here and there, I'm pretty sure he's enjoying his time, at home. Definitely, I'm a big fan of Jamal Crawford. Definitely
enjoying his time at home.
Yes, definitely.
I'm sure he is.
Definitely a guy who should be on an NBA roster, I say. I'm not sure what's the deal, why he's not on an NBA roster, but hey, come to Orlando. He did have an opportunity, I'd say, a few years ago to play with Golden State Warriors. As we know, he decided to choose Minnesota Timberwolves, and that was because he prefers to go with the grind, grind into the playoffs, possibly make into an NBA championship team. I say Orlando Magic is a perfect fit. We're a young team that still needs another veteran away, who's been through the good and through the bad as well. To me, he's a professional scorer.
I agree with you. I think Jamal Crawford is definitely somebody we should look at. I think he's going to help Markelle Fultz a lot. I think his veteran presence, his shooting, his handles, those are all things that Markelle can pick up from. And being surrounded by 2 veteran guys who are hard workers, are committed, dedicated to the franchise that they're playing for, in DJ Augustine and Crawford, is something that I think Markelle is missing. Being away from the game for so long, you need kind of that motivation. You need to look at guys who have done it for a long time and what their regimen is, how they eat, how they treat their bodies, what their discipline and commitment level is. And I think Markelle being around guys that are serious about the game is only going to make him that much more of a threat. And I think Jamal fits what we need.
For me, so I like both of those names. Or Jamal Crawford, I think, will be a good fit. But for me, I think a player that I see fitting in Orlando for multiple reasons is Joe Johnson. He was recently cut by the Detroit Pistons. I just think he's a guy who has been in the playoffs, can score, can shoot. Is a good locker room person. I just think his presence in the team would be huge, would lift the team to another level. He can help still the young guys, the Fultz, the Isaac on the roster. So Joe Johnson is a name to me that's interesting. I don't know why it didn't work out with the Detroit Pistons.
That's a shocker for me.
That's a shocker. I mean, and he killed it in the Big Three. I know it's very different to play the Big Three in the NBA, but he was, at another level playing that league. So I would think he would be a good fit in Orlando. I'll just throw that name out there.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Those are all nice names, but I know that this is not gonna happen, not even close. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. J.R. Smith.
What?
J.R. Smith. This is why. The very first thing, because if you don't fit this criteria, then you can't enter the team, right? J.R. Smith is a 6'6" shooting guard, right, with a 6'10" wingspan. So wingspan by itself, right? He has the credentials. All right. With that being said, we just need a shot creator. We need someone that can be able to create his own shot, can penetrate. I know that typically the Magic do go for good character first players, but at the same time, one of my favorite players is that played for the Magic previously is Matt Barnes, and it was just because he was a headache for everyone else. Like, you need someone that has like that type of personality that you're not going to mess with this team. If you're going to mess with this team, come see me, right? He has that kind of grit to him that I like. Now, he has a lot of flaws to it, and I'm not sure if that's something that you want to add to such a good chemistry. But just being that devil's advocate, I wouldn't mind seeing J.R. Smith in Orlando.
I do agree. I think we need like an attitude piece. I think
we need a dog.
All of the guys on our team are pretty friendly, nice guys, mild-mannered guys. Don't really instill that fear in other players. So I agree. I could see J.R. Smith being on this team.
Same thing. I think we do need that dog, that person that comes in and just gives a hard foul. Just again, gives some identity to this team. J.R. Smith, will he feel the bill? For me, I'm not sure, but we need someone like him with that mentality of, hey, coming into the games and just saying, we're here, gotta respect us. Back to respect again. We gotta respect the Magic.
The one thing that worries me about J.R. if we added him is his inconsistency.
Yes,
because this is a guy that could drop 50 or he could drop 0, go 0 for 10.
I agree.
Disappear.
Yeah, and that's something that could end up hurting us because we already struggle with that inconsistency.
But I think you can afford that because we're not saying plug him into the starting lineup. I'm not even saying plug him into the second lineup.
Oh, no, of
right?
course not. Yeah.
That's right.
I want this guy to be behind Terrence Ross.
Correct.
They put him behind MTW just to have just in case, right? Because he is a player, no matter how you feel about him, he's a player that does have experience. He is an NBA champion. How many championship players do we have on our team?
None.
Good answer. So it's one of those things where I do feel like it could be an added piece, even if he has because he has an opportunity to be able to not relive, but re-spark his career, right? Yeah. So you sit him down, you have that conversation with him, and if it's something that feels right, then okay. And again, I feel like there's a 1% chance of this happening, but it's something that I don't mind if it did happen.
And I'll be honest, I think we're all bringing up these names here, but knowing our front office, it will probably be some random name. We have no idea who it is.
Long wingspan.
It's playing in Europe right now somewhere.
It's true. That's what happened with Ken Burch.
Ken Burch, Briscoe, same thing.
I agree.
So I think we'll see what happens. I just hope it's someone who can score, number one, and create for others. I know we have faults developing and getting there, but we need someone who can just step in when needed, kind of like that Ken Burch role. Just plug him in when needed, he can perform. So hopefully that will happen.
I would hope that it's at least a guard. I think we're pretty stacked at the forward positions and in the backcourt as well. As long as he's a shooter, I'm okay with it. Just shoot the 3 ball.
That's right.
So we have this segment that I'm actually really excited about called Pass or Shoot. So it's pretty simple, right? You're either going to pass on the idea as something that you don't believe in, or you're going to shoot as in something you do believe in. So just recently, Josh Robbins from The Athletic came out with an article, 10 Magic Bold Predictions. And one of the first ones that he came out with, or one of the ones that he came out with, was that the Magic will go 44-38 and finish 6th in the East. Are you passing or shooting?
I'm passing. The reason is because I've been on other podcasts and I've talked about my prediction for the Magic. Initially, I started at about 50-52 wins as the ceiling for this team. I think 44 wins is a worst case scenario. I think Orlando has gotten better. I think their trust, between each other is better. Their ball movement has improved, although there's times that it looks like it regressed. We have more scorers on our team. I just don't see, with the East being as wide open as it is, I don't see us finishing sixth. I don't see 6 teams being better than us. I think realistically, Milwaukee and Philly are, maybe 1 and 2, maybe 3. And then Boston. I think those are the 3 teams that I can say right now are better than us. I don't see how 6 teams would finish ahead of us.
No, I definitely agree with you. I'm definitely gonna pass as well. My prediction's pretty close, guys. I'm gonna go with 46 and 36. I project us to maybe fall into that more of the 4 or 5 range. I think the reason why I'm going with 46 and 36, and I think it's the most obvious, is the consistency with our roster. We brought back almost everybody. We only have 2 new additions with Aminu, which is gonna bring a great veteran presence off the bench, and then obviously Markelle Fultz bringing a different taste to that point guard position that we haven't had in a long time. Right now in the NBA, we sit at number 2 on defense. Last 2 games, we just averaging 94 points, giving up to our opponents. That's definitely going to be our grit and grind right there for us, is our defense. We have a lot of length. John Weltman brought his concept from Milwaukee Bucks, bringing a lot of that length to us. And that's going to be our fallback, I believe, throughout the season. Our length is going to be a lot of trouble to these teams, and we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. 46 and 36 is going to be my prediction.
So for me, I'm actually going to shoot, man. I know I'm going to
shoot.
I'm going to shoot. I'm going to take those free throws and make them. I think that, I don't know if I agree with the record necessarily, but I do agree with the seeding. While I think the Magic will hopefully finish ahead of that and be 3rd or 4th or 5th in the East, things like last night worry me. Losing to teams that we shouldn't be losing to. I just don't know if it's just in the DNA of this team. Unfortunately, we saw it too many times last year where we just lost to bad teams. And again, preseason showed us again inconsistency. We're seeing it already this season. I don't know how long it will take for this team to kind of click. And yeah, we had only 2 players, Aminu and Fultz, really being added, and Mamba as well. He barely played in the second half of last year. Those players need seasoning. They need some time to get used to the team, get used to what we're trying to do. And my worry is it might be too late in the year. It might be, closer to the trade deadline in January, and by then our record may not be what it needs to be.
You mean when we figure it out?
Correct.
When we figure it out.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think that's what leads me to believe we might be in that 5th, 6th range in the East. So that I agree with Josh. Record-wise, I can see us winning 45, 46 games, like Mark said. That's just my thoughts on that.
I mean, I'm going to pass, but I don't disagree. I think the 6th in the East is a realistic option. I mean, we were 8th last season. Before that, we weren't even talking playoffs. We were talking the NBA draft. So putting us at the 6th seed is something that I can't see happening.
Oh, we were 7th last year.
Excuse me, 7th.
Yeah.
7th. You're right. I apologize. We were 7th last season. So it's an upgrade, right? It's an improvement.
Yes.
This team, if there's one thing that we haven't done well, is improve.
That's
right.
right.
I feel like for the first time, we have that consistency of being able to improve from the following season.
Well, I think last season we finished tied for 7th with Brooklyn at 42 and 40, if I'm not wrong. I don't think that the teams that are gonna be ahead of us are gonna win that many more games. You know what I mean? So if we got into that 6-7 seed with 42 wins this year, to think that we're gonna need 4 more wins to finish in the same seeding when the East hasn't gotten better is a little bit weird of a prediction for me.
I'm just also leaving some room there for injuries. We got to be realistic as well. Last year, players of our team barely missed any games with injuries. I think that this year, unfortunately, we might see some. It's just the NBA, right? It happens.
Right.
So I think that's where some losses may come as well. You lose to Terrence Ross all of a sudden, where's your offense coming from? Off the bench. Yeah, Fultz is getting there.
But that might give an option, that might give an opportunity to Wundu to come in who can also score and create.
And I think that's the difference between this season and last season. Last season, you had a lot of weak points. You had a lot of weak points that really hurt the team when they were in the game. The Jeremy Grants, right? Oof. So it's one of those things where this team is so deep that Coach Clifford is really tying into his 10-man rotation. but he really has a solid 12 guys that can really be put in the game. Wesley Nwandu, Kim Burge, that can really impact the game.
Right.
And I feel like the sixth in the East doesn't impact how strong our bench is. So we have a very, very deep team.
That is true. That is one thing that our team did really well this year. Is building that depth that we never really had in the last few years. So I think that will be a plus for us. So again, I think whether you finish, in my opinion, that 4th to 6th range is realistic. Just a lot of factors come into the play. You gotta look at health. You gotta look at faults, how he develops. Bamba, which we'll talk about a little later, how will he develop into the role that he's playing? Because right now, let me tell you, we won't go too deep into that, but I feel like Birch would be a much better fit right now off the bench than Bamba. But again, that's for a later topic. I know we'll get there in a few minutes. Sure. But again, whether it's 4th to 6th, I think that's a realistic range. Best case scenario, I think I see us looking 3rd, 4th. Worst case scenario, I don't see us falling any further down than 6th.
He also, kind of moving, spinning it forward a little bit, he also mentioned Jonathan Isaac as possibly being Orlando's most improved player. What do you guys think about that?
So for me, that's a good point. I would say I'm 80% there, agreeing with him. So I'm going to say I shoot with that idea. But then again, Isaac's offense just hasn't been there. I know it's very early in the season, but I'm a little concerned now. Is Isaac going to be a defensive anchor and that's it? Or will he turn into that player that we hope he becomes, that 15-point per game scorer, that player that can hit the open shots? Hasn't been there through preseason, the first 2 games just yet. So I'm a little concerned. So I'm agreeing with him based on potential only. But I'm a little concerned.
I'm passing on it. I think there's other players on the roster that can be kind of be put in that category. If Aaron Gordon becomes an all-star, would you put him in that category?
I would. Made a leap, right?
If Markelle Fultz averages 13, 14 points a game, do you put him in that category?
For sure.
Definitely up there.
For sure.
So you have other players that I can see taking that leap faster than Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac last season was his really first full season where he was healthy. He added weight. He was more of an impact to the team. He started every game that he played, if I'm not mistaken. So it's one of those things where I can't see happening. I just see a player like Markelle Fultz, and it could just be because I'm biased and I'm ruining the hell for this team. It could just be that. But I can see Markelle Fultz getting the nod for most improved over Jonathan Isaac, so I'm passing on that.
To me, I'm shooting with Isaac. A lot of people don't see what I see. There's so much potential with this guy. We're talking about a 7-footer, or 6'11" in his eyes. He doesn't like to be called a 7-footer, but in our eyes, he's definitely a 7-footer.
Why doesn't he like being called a 7-footer?
I think actually in the real measurements, he measured at 6'11", if I'm not wrong.
Right.
The NBA wants accuracy this season.
Right. So he is he is 1 inch shy, or 3/4 of an inch shy of being a 7-footer.
He's 6'11", but somehow he's still taller than Vooch.
Yeah.
I've analyzed at least 5 pictures. I've investigated the crap out of him, and I still see that he's taller. He's at least 7'1".
And that's not even looking close either.
No, not even close.
Then again, how many pictures have we seen of them barefooted? So
that's true.
That's true.
For me, on the whole Isaac front, I'm going to pass. I think the guy who's going to show out for us this year, and the guy who's going to be the most improved, is going to be Evan Fournier. Anybody who knows me knows that I've been an Evan fan for a while now. He is actually my favorite player on the team. But I think Evan has a wonderful shot. He's a great 3-point shooter. As you saw last night against the Hawks, he could definitely use his handle to get in the paint a little bit, lay up. He can dunk. He can kind of do it all. I think it's more of a confidence issue with him. And when he played in the FIBA tournament, we all saw he was an animal. He was super decisive. He knew what he wanted to do when he got the ball, and he wasn't afraid to shoot. I think when he comes to Orlando, he looks to defer a lot. And this season, we're going to need him to be FIBA Fournier. If we're gonna succeed, so that's
gonna be the new nickname.
That's the new nickname.
FIBA Fournier.
He plays well. He plays well.
So on a couple of tweets, you had talked about the possibility of Aaron Gordon getting traded, right? If he doesn't meet his expectations,
right.
So pass or shoot. if he doesn't meet his expectations, do you see him being moved by All-Star break?
I'm gonna shoot on that. I think I'm gonna shoot on that because I think Aaron Gordon, which it may be a hot take, but I think Aaron Gordon is holding some value across the league. As much as I hate talking about it because he's so much more than just dunking. That dunk contest with Zach LaVine a couple years ago, got people talking about and having people familiarizing themselves with Aaron Gordon. And I think if he disappears the rest, up to All-Star break the way that he has, 3 games in the preseason and the first 2 games of the regular season, I think Orlando may move him.
Would you be okay with him being moved?
I would, for the right piece.
So you would be okay with Aaron Gordon being moved while he enters the slam dunk contest champion. He becomes a slam dunk contest champion this season in another jersey.
Man, oh man.
I think if I'm putting on my GM hat, it's so much more than a dunk contest.
I agree.
So I'll tell you,
a dunk contest is going to get us a couple likes on social media, and the Jump might talk about us, but it's not going to bring chips to Orlando.
I agree.
And as much as it'll pain me to see him go, because I do feel like he's kind of developed an identity here, and people are familiar with Aaron Gordon. Most of the Magic jerseys you see are Aaron Gordon jerseys.
Yep.
Yes.
So yes, it may be painful at first, but I think if we can get a scoring wing for Aaron Gordon, that'll be the ideal trade. We're playing him right now at the 3 spot. That's not where he's naturally positioned, and you could see it in his game. He's not comfortable playing at that position. And I think there's going to come a point down the road, whether it's this season or the next, where we're going to have to choose Jonathan Isaac or Aaron Gordon. And I think the front office is going with the guy that they drafted, which is J.I.
So for me, I'm going to shoot. I'm actually going to agree here with Josh Robinson saying that he will not be traded. We're going to hear rumors. It's going to happen. We know it happens every year with Aaron Gordon, but it's not going to happen this year. I think that if it does happen, it will happen in the offseason. I just think that there's too much invested in the makeup of this team, how it was built, the grittiness, the defense, and he's key to that. So I don't see how they're going to give up on that this season. Now, we missed the playoffs. We don't look that we're supposed to. He's averaging, 12 points a game again, something that it's not meeting expectations. I think in the summer we'll look at some options for him. Again, we are a young team. Shuma Okiki's coming in next year as a brand new rookie. We have a draft pick in the summer, which I honestly think we're going to probably end up trading. We have way too much youth in this team. But to add up Gordon being traded this season, I just don't see it happening.
So you mentioned, how he's kind of the face of the organization in a way. He's moving in that direction.
On the defensive end, I think he's an anchor right now, I would think.
Right, but he's also not the guy that John and Jeff drafted. He's not someone that they're emotionally tied to. They kind of inherited the team with him here, and he's kind of the last piece from that Rob Hennigan kind of era. So, it's a little tricky to think what's going to happen. But I think if there was ever a front office who would be okay with dealing Aaron Gordon, it would be these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot. I'm thinking more post-career. If you really think about other teams, let's say Miami in general, what's one thing that they can do that we can't? And that's as a free agent when you're going to meet the execs, right? And you're thinking about playing for their city, they have the Alonzo Mournings, the Tim Hardaways, the Pat Rileys to have that conversation and convince them to come play for their city. Who do we have? All we have is Bo Outlaw and Nick Anderson. That's it. As much as I love those guys, they're not convincing free agents to come to Orlando. It's just not happening. Right. One of the things I agree with that the Magic did was bring on Tracy McGrady, put him on your payroll. So now you can add him to those conversations, right? He's really plugged into the media, right? He's on the jump. He's talking positive about the Orlando Magic. He's saying my team, right? And I think that that's really important for a franchise, right? Just imagine how powerful it would be if we had a good relationship with the Shaquille O'Neals, with the Penny Hardaways. Now you bring a free agent to come talk to you, you're going to have Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway in those conversations. Yep. They can talk to the city. They can talk about the franchise. And I feel we need to have those players, and we have to start making the right decisions now.
So you're thinking that long-term, Aaron Gordon could be the face of the franchise, one of those guys, so you wouldn't trade him, right?
I'm thinking that we haven't seen Aaron Gordon's ceiling. So you hold on to him. He's going to figure it out. I have confidence that he's going to figure out, and then long-term wise, he's going to have a lot of benefits that we can utilize. He's going to be able to talk to those younger players. Because now, let's say the next generation, after, let's say Aaron Gordon stays with us, he retires, the players coming in, they're not going to know who Tracy McGrady is like that. The same way that kids now think that Michael Jordan is just shoes and nothing more.
That's right. And not only that, too, but I think his contract. I mean, you're not paying Aaron Gordon, a significant amount of money that you're like, oh my God, this guy is costing us this much money, and he's not producing.
Got him on a great contract.
He's making, what, $20 million a year? I mean, that's not for nothing, but for a 23, 24-year-old guy with such a high ceiling, I don't mind that. Like I said, if it is at the 3, at the 4, I feel he'll figure it out. I feel like he'll get there. I just think we need to adjust what we expect of Gordon. I don't think we need to be expecting him to be a 25-point-per-game scorer. He is who he is. He's a defensive player. He's, again, somebody said it recently, he needs to be the Draymond Green of our team. And I think his mindset needs to shift to that.
See, but even with Draymond Green, for example, Draymond's calling card is consistency at every level. Draymond is going to give you 110% on defense every day, every game, all game long. He's not going to take plays off. And he's a guy you could count on for offense. I mean, this last season, he struggled a little bit offensively. But when you look at his entire career up to that point, he was like the perfect image of consistency. So I don't think Aaron is on that same level. And I don't want to sit here talking like I'm an Aaron Gordon hater, because I'm not. I just feel like if you're looking at it from a GM's perspective, you have to analyze risk and value, right? And if you hold on to this guy too long, and he has a season where he's averaging 10, 12 points a game, right? What happens to him when other GMs look at him across the league? Now you're banking on this guy who is regressing, and you can't trade him for any valuable piece, so you just let him walk? I don't know. I think you have to, and it's a tough position to be in, but you do have to kind of manage those risks.
But I think what ends up happening is, let's say that you do move Aaron Gordon. What do you trade him for, right? Most likely you're going to trade him for a really good offensive shooter, right? Mm-hmm. So someone that, because we've had this conversation, I thought, a good player that you can plug in, if they're willing, right, is a player like Bradley Beal. But you bring in a player like Bradley Beal, and then now you're creating a logjam in the 2 guard, right? Correct. Yeah, you can push him to the 2 and 3, but now you're really hoping that, okay, Chuma Okeke pans out and becomes at least someone that, has enough potential to be able to play Aaron Gordon type minutes.
Unless you're considering Aminu as that guy that can fill that gap.
Are you really going to start Aminu as your 4? Granted, they did it in Portland, but do you feel confident enough to where he can play your 4?
I think he was the starting 4 in a championship contending team. I think Aminu is deserving of that spot. And I know this is not the popular opinion, and again, I'm going to sound like an Aaron Gordon hater, but Aminu is going to give you consistency on both ends of the floor at a higher rate than Aaron Gordon will, in my opinion. Did Aminu struggle in Portland, and there were games where his offense was dry? Yes. But I don't know. I think he's a better scoring option than AG at this point.
I do have a question for that. Aminu was on a potentially championship squad. He wasn't asked to do much. He had Damian Lillard on his side. He had CJ McCollum on his side. Let's say if Magic decided to input him at the 4, with him probably being asked to do more, would he flourish in that role, to do more?
No, I think that he's a player that he knows what his role is.
Right.
And he's going to be really good at what his role is.
Right.
He's going to be an energy guy. He's going to play defense. He's going to grab the rebounds. He's going to seek out his opportunities to score. But you're not asking him to do what Aaron Gordon does, and I think that's going to be that's the hard part for me of letting Aaron Gordon go, because I know what he can do, I know what his potential is. Now, if we're talking 4 seasons from now, we know what we have in Aaron Gordon. There's no more ceiling. We're kind of stuck, and we're not moving anywhere. Then I understand from that standpoint.
But at that point,
still trying to figure. At that point now, we're wasting a lot of time.
Everyone knows what he is at that point. Right now, he's a wild card.
Right.
And the benefit of having a wild card is that you could sell it for a high amount because no one knows what's going to happen with it.
You don't know.
But you're risking it at the same time because that wild card could pan out to be a monster.
And that's the thing. If Gordon was 28 years old, we know who he is. That's it. Like, he's playing at this level, and that's all he's going to be. We get it. But he's 24 years old, not even close to being in his prime yet. We're about 3 years away from that. So the potential, we see it. We see the flashes, right? We see the flashes where he scores 40 points, 45 points. We see it happening where he can show this potential of being a great player on the offensive end as well. On the defensive end, I don't think we have a doubt. He's a great player. But if we give up on that right now, it's Oladipo all over again. It's Tobias Harris all over again. And now we're like, hey, if we had that piece all over again. So it's tough. That's why I say this year it's not going to happen. I don't think our front office moves quick at all. They like to think things through. They like to be, they like to consider every single possible option first.
That's a good point.
So I just don't see it happening by the trade deadline. Will it happen in the summer? Maybe.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, he's only 24 years old. Like, okay, let's say that we're able to grab Tobias Harris and add him to this team now.
Oh my God.
How much impact would he be able to have?
Yeah.
Then again, what if we didn't let him go?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the tough part, and that's I'm
many
kind of glad that I'm
What
not the
ifs,
one
yeah.
at the end of the day making those tough decisions, because it's easier to see it that way now. At the same time, I just still think that you have too much in Aaron Gordon.
And we also look at those guys like Oladipo and Tobias, and we say, oh my God, look at what they've become. But who knows, you know, if they would have become that had they stayed here. I mean, you have to believe that Oladipo working with Russ in OKC made an impact in his game.
For sure.
And that's just something that you can't predict. You can only go based on what you're seeing now and what you've seen up to this point.
But I will say this, though. I trust this front office. I trust what they've done, with the way they're developing the young guys. It's not the Hennigan days anymore. You know, where we drafted Mario and Peyton and all these guys who never became anything. To this day, they left Orlando and they still just random players. So I think that's why I'm like, it's too early to give him up.
I think we can all agree that we're torn on the Aaron Gordon front, but just jumping off Aaron Gordon and kind of landing into Stuff's Island. So this is a pretty neat segment that's interesting, right? The way it works is that we're going to discuss a player, and then you're going to tell me whether or not you're buying property on that specific island, right? The first island that we're jumping into is MCW.
Ooh.
You buying?
Ooh. I mean, so as Twitter would tell us, this is a touchy subject. I think MCW single-handedly last night brought us back into the game. 4 defensive stops in a row. I mean, you can see, again, the defensive end is not a problem with him. The problem that I have with him in the rotation at the moment is you got somebody like Ep.1 who we all want to see play, get minutes. So at this moment, I am not buying property. I'm not.
I think MCW is he's a little bit of a confusing, you know, kind of topic, because it feels like when he comes into the game late in games, like you saw last night against Atlanta, he's having 4, 5, 6 defensive stops in a row, which is keeping us in the game because our offense wasn't working. And if it wasn't for those stops, we probably would have, you know, lost by 10 or more points.
Easily, yeah.
So it's important to give MCW that credit and to understand and respect the fact that he is on that elite level of defense. The problem is the scoring. And I don't know if he can spend more time with a shooting coach. I don't know if it's an issue where he feels like he doesn't have a role that's commanding a shooting performance from him, so his confidence is lacking, or if he doesn't necessarily understand what his role is in the offense. But I think it's something that can be corrected. But I'm with you, Al. I don't think I'm buying property on MCW Island.
I'm honestly 50-50 with this. There's positives and negatives to this. MCW obviously is an elite defender. My problem is, are we playing him at the right position? Obviously, he played his whole NBA career as a point guard. And we're not even talking about the offense side of the point guard. We're asking him to be a 2 and a 3. We're asking him to guard 2 and 3s, but we're also asking him to be offensively a 2 and 3 for us.
And he's not
He's not there right now for us. For a team that already, we're not a great 3-point shooting team. Through the last 2 games, we're 9 through 34 on our 3-point field goals, which is not great at all.
So 21%, huh? 21%.
21% is really low right now. So, and that bench lineup doesn't have too many shooters as well. I mean, we have Aminu and Mo Bamba who could pretty much shoot the trigger on that 3-point line. And that kind of leads up to, you know, I would like to ask you guys, what do you guys think about Wandu? Should Clifford start maybe inserting him just to give us a little offensive spark? We're sitting at 94 points a game right now in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm not giving up.
By the way, 6 for 10 in the preseason. 6 for 10 in the 3-point line on Wandu.
I'm not giving up MCW to give Awandu's minutes. This is why. He's your point guard that you converted into your 2 and your 3. It could easily be your top 5 defender on the team. He's 6'5". Yesterday, you put MCW on Trae Young to slow him down. He had his instances where he had 5, 6 stops, and it was him by himself. He's doing that. He's doing the steal. He's the one that's getting the charge. He's putting in all that work. And what I love most about him, what I saw yesterday, is he got a steal, took it down the court, went for a layup, missed it. The next play down the court, he takes it right back down. He's like, I'm not taking that layup. I'm slamming it in. Your 6'5" point guard. Your 6'5" point guard just did that.
To me, that's
right?
he's our most gritty player.
And he's playing a position that he's really doesn't have experience in. He's always played the one guard. True. So you converted a point guard to a 2 or 3, and he's being your elite defender.
And I think earlier we mentioned that we needed a player that was a dog, that had that grittiness. I think that's what MCW brings to the table. I do understand that point of it. My only concern with that is, again, the offensive end. We know we're going to struggle in offense. We know that. We're not a great 3-point shooting team. Iwando gives you that play you got to respect at least. You got to make sure that you defend them. MCW, faults, you just know that, hey, let's forget about them. So now that tightens up the paint. That clogs it up for Gordon, for Vucevic. So now what do we do? So that's where my concern comes in.
If MCW is gonna get that last rotation spot, we need to reassure our offense, because it's fine. It's fine that he's getting all these stops and he's getting these steals, and that his defense is at such a high level. But at the same time, if he's going to the other end of the floor and he's making bad passes and giving up the ball on the other end, or he's not scoring, what good is the stops? It literally does not mean anything.
No, definitely for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, MCW is our most gritty player. I wouldn't say he's our heart and soul, but he's definitely, he's the dog of our team. I mentioned this to a lot of people. If it wasn't for us picking up MCW at that last 10-15 games of last season, we might not be talking about a playoff appearance. He came in there and he gave us what Jeremy and Grant wasn't giving us.
That's right.
He came in, he picked up the slack. We made the playoffs. But now to me, he's our biggest reason we made the playoffs.
I mean, to replace Wesley Iwando, he only averaged 5 points a game last season. So it's not like he has to recoup a huge amount. You're not expecting Michael Carter-Williams to hold you over. You're expecting him to go out there, play defense, grab some rebounds, be that guy that's on a 1-year contract, still trying to make his mark and making sure his career lasts a lot longer.
So do you think he's facing the brunt of the criticism because he couldn't score?
I think so.
Because based on your argument, if the rest of the guys were doing what they were supposed to do and meeting their expectations points wise, then it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't be expecting MCW to drop 15 for us.
I think that if it was the other way around, MCW wasn't getting minutes and Iwando was in, we would be saying the exact same thing about Wesley Iwando.
I think so. I mean, especially if he was shooting it at a poor range, from 3-point range. If Iwando was not making his shots, I think that will happen. So, hey, should we be playing MCW instead?
Do you think Coach Cliff would have put Iwando on Trae Young?
Yes.
I think so.
You think so?
Iwando's a pretty good defender as well. He's not on MCW's level, but I don't think he would have shied away from that either.
I don't see Coach putting Iwando on Trae Young.
And you're talking about from like a trust perspective.
No, I'm talking about as like an actual like in-game play. I'm gonna make the decision and put Iwando guarding Trae Young.
Now, if I had to choose, I would go MCW. We're talking about length, 6'6", compared to Iwando's 6'4", 6'5".
Pretty close.
Yeah, I would. At the moment, I would definitely agree with Anthony.
Yeah, and I think defensively, it's no question. I think defensively, right now, I would say MCW is ahead of the pack when it comes to comparison Iwando to him. But my concern, again, goes back to what I said earlier, is that offensive piece. We're struggling. Again, we're going to win games. We know that. Because of our defense, we know that. But do we need MCW to be that defensive presence when we can't score? Like last night, I get it. He brought us in the game. He did all that for us. But, hey, a couple of 3-pointers from Iwando, that would have helped last night.
Yes.
That would have made a difference. But again, I know last night's game is a bad example because MCW by himself helped us in the fourth quarter. It's more of a overall in the next 80 games that we have left.
And remember, we only lost that game by 4 points. Two made buckets from guys that missed shots that should have been made, and we'd be having an entirely different conversation. And the criticism for MCW would have never happened. So it's like, we're kind of prisoners of the moment in that sense where, you see this happening with MCW, and we lost by 4. We needed those points. He wasn't giving us those points. That's the last thing we saw. That's who gets the blame.
And to be fair, last season, there was none of this criticism for MCW.
No.
Yeah, everyone knew about his
He
offensive
saved our
struggles, but everyone was super hyped about him. More so because, all right, Jerry and Grant took the ball away from him, put somebody else in,
Yes.
and MCW went in there playing really good, hard defense. He did
That's
the same
right.
thing yesterday. Yesterday, it kind of seemed like everyone was on top of MCW, and the minute that happened, that's where he went off defensively.
Brings a whole
And
new energy.
really big highlight reel.
Right.
You know? So it's one of those things where it's what you have with them. I think Coach Cliff has to make that decision of what is it that my team needs the most. Do I need a defensive
Correct.
stopper, or do I need someone that can really shoot on the outside, which is something that Wesley Nwandu can do.
And if Markel becomes that primary scoring option, you may see more of MCW because there'll be
That's right.
more offense to go around, which means that what is expected of MCW will be more realistic. It'll fit into what his game is, and he'll be able to that will be able to reap the benefits of his defense without having him, put up 10, 15 points a game.
I agree. How do you feel about Mo Bamba?
Mo Bamba,
You buying or selling?
I'm selling. It is too early. He's a big question mark. Obviously,
Huge question mark.
everyone's concern is his motor. I watch a lot of college basketball myself, and I noticed it right off the bat in college, back in University of Texas, where he played at. He has the tools, talking about a 7-footer with arguably one of the largest wingspans the NBA has ever seen.
Second.
The motor. Second.
Taco Fall.
Yes. Obviously, the motor's not there. He's picking and choosing when to play hard, not to play hard. He's doing a great job of developing his outside shot. He's definitely hitting them when he has to. It's just the motor. What we need from a big man is, somebody's going to go in there, dig deep, get those rebounds, hustle against these big men who are now stepping outside the three-point line. We need a big man who's able to chase those big men as well. To me, my biggest thing is his motor. I don't see the motor there. I don't see the heart. I don't see the hustle.
So for me, unfortunately, because I like him as a person, I like him as a human being. He's a great guy, but I'm selling right now. I was impressed in his short minutes in preseason that he played. He looked like he had turned that page. In the first game against San Antonio, especially, he looked like a beast out there.
Looked good.
Like, here we go. Here's Bamba. He's arrived. And then the next few games happened. And I'm like, what happened to that Bamba that we saw? That energy, that aggressiveness, boxing out. It's not there. So for me, I'm going to keep it short and simple. I'm selling.
So his first game against Cleveland, Cleveland and last night's game in Atlanta, he played the same amount of time, 14 minutes. His first game with the Cleveland, he scored 7 points and 7 rebounds. It wasn't a bad game. He's your second string center, right? He's in there as an intimidator. He's in there to block, to grab rebounds. He's doing a lot. So I'm saying I'm buying property in Mo Bamba. I'd say we give him a little bit. He was out majority of the season last season, so he's still trying to get back into the groove of things. And I have a lot of confidence in Markel Fultz that he's going to put him in the best positions. I think a lot of it has to do with your point guard, and I feel that in addition to those two working together, I think he's going to be fine. We just got to give him time to get more playing time and to get his feet underneath him.
And I'm selling. I haven't been a Mo Bamba fan, and I had this conversation on another podcast I was on, but I believe that Ken Birch, although his ceiling is lower, has a higher floor at the moment. Obviously, Bamba has a higher ceiling. There's no one who can say that he can't become a great player. But when I look at what the Magic need now, and I'm not saying that we're in a win-now kind of mindset, but I think Birch fits better into our offense than Bamba does. I think we're kind of forcing Bamba to become this guy who he isn't necessarily going to become. So I think it just really depends. I think Bamba will eventually figure it out. I don't know if that's this season, next season, the year after. But I think it was good that we kept Vooch. I could say that.
For sure.
Because had we not re-signed Vooch, we would have been in trouble. Because Bamba, although, like Mark said, he has all of the physical attributes to be great, his motor is a question mark, and it seems like he's lost a lot of times on defense.
So at what point do you make that decision? At what point do you say, okay, Bamba isn't doing what we need from him? maybe we should try something different and add Kim Birch back into the lineup. Obviously, last season, that was a big change for us, right? The minute that Bamba got hurt, we integrated Kim Birch, and then we started winning games.
That's right.
His presence, he does impact the game a lot. But at what point do you make that decision and say, hey, let's hold off on Mo Bamba's development. We're not getting what we need from him. Let's try with the Canadian.
That's a good question. I think it's going to be difficult to kind of determine that because I think Steve is going to be under a lot of pressure if he makes that decision and Kem doesn't pan out. That's going to put a spotlight on him. So, I don't know. I definitely don't think that we're anywhere near that. I think Bamba is going to continue to receive his 14, 16 minutes a game. But ultimately, I think if we were playoff bound and we wanted to have success in the playoffs, Kem Birch would have to have that second center role, and Bamba would have to take a seat.
Unless things change. Unless he wakes up and he starts playing with energy. But again, that happening doesn't seem likely anytime soon. But if he does turn the page, if he does, play with energy, we're asking about 15 minutes a night, right? It's not like he needs to go out there and be this incredibly high energy guy for the full 48 minutes. It's a little spark. While Vuce is resting, give us some energy. He's gonna block shots. He's lengthy. He's gonna block shots. But we need a little more from him. We need that aggressiveness on pick and rolls, aggressiveness. Chasing rebounds, it's just not there right now. So if that changes, I can see him stay in the rotation. If not, I wouldn't want to be Coach Clifford.
What about property for Jonathan Isaac?
I'm a big Jonathan Isaac fan. I'm gonna buy. Like I said, there's so much potential in Isaac. Another thing that sticks out with me with Isaac is just the confidence. Going back to a few of the summer league stints that he had, there's no veteran on that team, obviously. So he's pretty much given the keys, to go out there and play. He's a 7-footer who can handle the ball just like a guard. I'm not worried about his shot too much. He can develop his shot. His shot has improved. To me, my biggest concern is his confidence, just going out there and just shooting. There's times where you see him involved. There's times you don't see him involved. He's still trying to figure out when to get in, when to get out. So for me, it's just a confidence thing. If he gets that confidence, I'm not comparing him to KD, but there's definitely glimpses of him, being a great player.
So for me, love Isaac as well. I'm going to buy on him right now. I am buying, but I'm not going to lie. I did buy a sign for sale. I'm thinking about putting it up, but not yet. My thing with Isaac is, I don't know if it's the offense. I don't know if it's his confidence, going back to what Mark just said. He's just thinking too much out there when it comes to the offensive side of things. On defense, he's a beast. We know that. We see it. We're like, oh my God, this guy is a stud. We know that. On offense, though, wide open look for three-pointers, you see him hesitating, looking around to who's going to pass it first rather than just taking the shot. So I kind of wish he had the confidence that Markel has in his shot.
Yes.
That he would have it. Because, again, he can shoot it. We know that. We see it warming up. We see it when he's in practice. We see the videos. It's there.
He doesn't have a bad shot.
It's just not coming out in the games. One more thing I want to say on Isaac is he has missed a lot on offense. I see him hustling. I see him cutting to the basket wide open. And those passes are not getting to him.
And he's a 7-footer.
Those could be easily 8 points a game. Easily he could be averaging on those cuts to the basket for layups or dunks. Watch it next time you watch a Magic game. It's not happening. I don't know why. They just keep missing him. But again, I'm buying for now.
I was really hoping his experience with Team USA was going to transition into the season. I was really hoping that because he was really aggressive. What I don't see is, so when Markel comes into the game, the first thing he does is he hits a shot. He at least shoots it, attempts it. Jonathan Isaac, I feel, just needs to be more aggressive early on. And if there's one thing that, because from what I heard is he put a lot of emphasis in his shooting. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen him because he always runs the corner and then he shoots his corner three. And he's been struggling with that. Granted, it's only 2 games, but it's something that I honestly feel is we're missing that. It's something that we need. The more he takes his shot and his opportunity, the better it's going to be for everyone else to open up the floor. So for right now, I'm selling on him. I haven't seen what I want to see. It's still early on, but hopefully he gets it all together.
I'm gonna buy. I like Jonathan Isaac a lot. I think it's super impressive that he is 7 feet tall and he can move the way he does.
Yes.
There's not a lot of players in the league who can do that. And at that size, to move so quickly and decisively and to be so agile, you're going to get your points. I think DJ and Markel have to do a better job of getting him involved. And his shot will come with time. I think it's a confidence thing as well. Once he realizes that he can take it into his own hands and be that primary scoring option, I think that's going to help him further develop. But yeah, I'm buying on Jonathan Isaac. I think we're not too far away from seeing him become an all-star.
I mean, he is a staple, right? He's the first draft pick from the new era. He's a player that's versatile, offense and defense. He's long, he's tall, he can shoot the ball, put the ball on the floor.
He's likable, has a
Super
friendly personality.
Yes.
A guy that you would be proud to be the face of your franchise.
Yeah, I mean, the Magic are investing a lot in him. You see the marketing out there. It's all Isaac and Gordon. For the most part, you see those two guys out there a lot. But again, you just cannot ignore the numbers. 30% from the field in the first two games.
Yes.
0 for 4 from threes. It's a little bit worrisome. But again, hopefully that will come to an end pretty soon.
So, guys, we're kind of reaching the end of the podcast here. I wanted to spin it forward a little bit, look at the upcoming week for the Magic, and get your predictions on what we're going to look like for that week.
So this upcoming week, we got the Raptors, Knicks, Bucks, and Nuggets. How do you feel we're going to look?
Man, I hope, again, like I said earlier, I hope tomorrow is a wake-up call for us. We play well. We show that, hey, we're here. So I'm hoping for a win tomorrow against Toronto. The Knicks should be the easiest game of the week, so hopefully we got an easy win there. And then Denver and Milwaukee, I just want to at least win one of those. So I'm hoping for a 3-1 week. We can get it done.
Who do you take that we lose to?
I think Milwaukee might be the toughest game that we have this week. I think so. I think just the problem that Giannis presents, they can shoot it so well. Unless our defense is locked in, it's going to be a tough game for us.
I'm picking Orlando to go 2-2. I like our matchup against Toronto last year. They kicked our butt in the first round, 4 straight. So I feel like we're going to have a little bit of fire. I'm expecting to see a lot from our forwards. Pascal Siakam did have their numbers last year. I expect Gordon and Jonathan Isaac to, step up to his level. New York, I can see a win with New York. I'm not worried about New York too much. As far as our championship contender opponents, Milwaukee and Denver, I don't think we're there yet. I'm just worried about our offensive end. We haven't cracked 100 points this season yet. Milwaukee's a great defensive team as well, so they're definitely going to challenge us on the offensive end. I don't see any blowouts. I believe it will be close games, but when it's time to put the bucket in the basket, I think Milwaukee and Denver might be able to grind us out as of right now.
I don't see us breaking even. I don't see us being 2-2 for this week. I think it's either going to be on one end of the spectrum or the other. We're either going to be 3-1 or 1-3. One of the two is happening. Every team goes through adversity. I can see this team going through adversity right away. We already had the tough loss against Atlanta. This has to be a bounce back game. I feel we have to win against Toronto. Losing back to back is something that has to be a staple that we just don't do. And we have to be able to set that expectation right away. So it's either 1-3 or 3-1 for me.
I think I'm gonna go with Mark and say 2-2. The reason being, I think we are gonna come out with a fire against Toronto, especially losing, like you said, 4 in a row.
Yes, I agree.
Against them in the playoffs. And I don't know, like the Knicks, people look at as an easy win, but they have some guys in the paint that cause some issues. Mitchell Robinson is a monster on defense. And Kevin Knox, Julius Randle, those are guys that, are motivated, are good guys, are developing. So I don't think it's going to be as easy of a win. And I think we're actually, between Milwaukee and Denver, I think we're going to steal one of those games.
I think so too.
I think we're gonna be motivated to play those guys. We want to be mentioned, in the same sentences with those guys. And to do so, you have to beat them. And we'll go out with a little bit of extra motivation. And I think if Markelle plays well against, for example, Milwaukee, I think his pace could be a little bit of an issue for them. They like to kind of set their defense, and that's been an issue for us in the past because we slow down when we're on their side of the court and kind of pass on the outside. I think if Markelle can penetrate, kick out, I think it could cause some issues.
I do have a question for you guys. Who do you think out of the Orlando Magic roster needs to step up this week? We got 4 games this week. Who do we need to see more?
That's easy.
That's easy for me. Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon.
I need to feel your presence. AG, if you're listening to this, I need to feel your presence. I need not just you to score 15, 20 points. I need you to be active on defense, and I need you to be that motivator for the guys. I need you to be the face of the franchise. Be the guy that people look for as a motivating factor and an impactor of the game.
I agree with Aaron Gordon. I want to see more from Terrence Ross. I feel he's a leader of our bench. As good as Markel is, being integrated in our second unit, I think Terrence Ross, that's his. He's supposed to get the respect of being the sixth man of the year.
No doubt.
Right? He broke the record or he led the NBA for having the most threes off the bench. Get back to that. Get back into the game and make an impact right away, defensively and offensively. He has to be that guy for us.
One last question. Does Markel start?
Nah, not yet. I think the pressure's getting there. Fans on Twitter are now wondering if it's going to happen anytime soon. I kind of like what Clifford is doing. He's not starting him, but he's in there within the first few minutes, and then he's actually closing out games, as we saw this against the Hawks. So I don't think you have to start him just yet. That pressure might be too much right away. And not for nothing. We got to trust what has been working, which is having DJ Augustine out there, at least for now. Now, mid-December comes around, different conversation.
Now, Markel Fultz did finish the game last night, I believe.
He did.
Over DJ Augustine. And just one more fun fact out of that, they both split even 24 minutes.
They've been doing that the last couple of games. So I think we're not seeing like DJ starting and playing 30 minutes. He's actually sharing the minutes with Markel. So it'll be fun to see for sure.
I think it's the start of it. He ended the game yesterday. I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Yes.
Steve Clifford, he came out publicly and said, we were just better with him on the floor.
Yeah.
Everyone sees that. That's absolutely no secret. So I think that we start to see him play more minutes than DJ Augustine until he finally just takes over as the starting point guard.
Yeah.
With time, though, I think it's going to take a little more than a couple games.
Yeah, I think I don't know why in my head I'm thinking mid-December. Just you give that month and a half to the team to kind of see if they click, if they don't. Defense is not there, the offense is not there. Let's switch it up a little bit. So we'll see.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts?
I think we covered most of the action so far through 1 week. I know there was a lot going on with the team. I think we did a good job covering everything.
It's been an exciting week, no doubt. It's the first week of the NBA season. We're just getting started here.
This was fun. I'm excited for future podcasts. I'm excited to see this team grow and develop, and hopefully we can keep getting this content out once a week as the plan is. So we'll definitely be on the lookout. We're excited. We hope you're excited, and more to come.
Thank you for tuning in, and now let's get out of here.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans.
Catch us every Monday wherever you listen to your podcast.